Artificial intelligence is often mentioned in digital marketing today, promising more leads, better targeting, and sometimes faster decisions. But in B2B, where decisions are complex, cycles are long, and trust matters, the real question is not probably what AI can do, but what it should do. In this episode of Forum IT, we go beyond tools and buzzwords. We talk about AI through the lens of B2B lead generation, maybe buyer behavior, measurement, and real business impact. My guest today is Avinash Kaushik, one of the most respected voices in digital analytics and marketing strategy globally. Together, I will try to explore with Avinash where AI truly creates values, where it creates only illusions, and how marketers can make smarter decisions in a world where automation is accelerating faster than understanding. This is Forum IT, and this is a conversation about clarity, not hype. Thank you, Avinash, for joining Forum IT, and welcome to our show.
I'm so excited. Thank you for inviting me.
Avinash, I started to follow you quite some time ago, and then I had the pleasure to see you on stage on GPEC and also be in your masterclass in the other GPEC Summit, and I really loved what you are talking about. I also read your book, and I learned very much from it. I'm waiting for the version 2 of your book. Hopefully it's coming out shortly. But talking about digital marketing and AI, everybody is mentioning that in our sphere of friends, right? I'm curious from your point of view, what is really new thing and what is just automation with sort of new labeling?
Yeah, of course. So that's a really great question. Look, advanced algorithms that can find causality or they can figure out patterns in the data, they have existed for some time. I think what is new with the new AI solutions that are in the market is the extraordinary scale at which they can operate, and the improvement in the intelligence they can bring to it. That is very new, maybe like last 3 years or so. Even though the word has been very old, some AI has been available for a long time. But even until like 5 years ago, if you gave a bunch of animals to AI and said, hey, separate the cats and the dogs, it will do an okay job, but it wouldn't be perfect. Today, it will be damn near perfect. The second thing that is very incredible is the diversity of problems that we can put AI at. So for example, if you and I wanted to make the next promotion ad for iTalks, and we wanted to run that on Facebook, you and I would take less than 60 seconds to use AI today to cook up a really nice ad and invite people to listen to this episode. So people are making small movies with it. Yesterday, for example, Google released Genie 3, and with Genie, you just type in a phrase and say, oh, I am in Bucharest on this street in the central square. And then you just start walking and you will paint the world automatically and dynamically. So just the application in the creative space is really extraordinary. And then, of course, the last thing is when it comes to our business environment, especially B2B, we can use AI to make analytics better. We can use AI to do HR better. I just built a model predicting which employee is most likely to quit next. It's a really interesting application. Like if you want to hold on to your employees, it's a really great way to use it. So we can use it for HR, right? We can use it for logistics. I just worked on a project with a very large South American supermarket chain to figure out how many trucks need to be at what warehouse with what products to take to the supermarkets, and product design. Of course, in a B2B context, we think about many software companies. A lot of engineering is being outsourced to AI. So you see, just these 4 things I have mentioned to you are such diverse applications of AI. That is really, really new. What I think is overhyped a little bit, including sometimes by myself, is AI can find the insights, it can do a bunch of the work, but it is not fully automated yet. So I always think that in a B2B context for our companies, there are two things that need to happen. You need to use intelligence at scale. You need to figure out how to automate it. So, for example, we create ads for a B2B company in Romania. Creation of ads is good, but how we deliver ads automatically to people, that is the automation part. So I think automation needs a lot of work. Intelligence that is available today is extraordinary.
I noted down intelligence, personalization, and automation at scale, but also keeping an eye on how to do this efficiently and targeting real humans, because we are still selling to humans. And in B2B, definitely there are multiple stakeholders who are involved, and therefore we have to keep an eye on all this. We are at the beginning of our episode of Forum IT. If I want to ask you a question which might hint why people should continue or watch us. In a B2B company, if a B2B company to do only one thing in 2026 in AI, what should that be from your point of view? What would be your recommendation?
Yeah. So the most important thing for many B2B companies offer trials, or they offer some kind of demo experience. And then the big challenge is converting the people who have the free option, demo option, trial option into paying customers. So my latest newsletter that I wrote last week actually focuses on this narrow problem. So the reason people should listen to us is that the immediate improvement to profit is having a higher trial to paying customer rate. And AI can be very helpful in understanding what it is that causes people to convert at a higher rate for your business. Obviously, they can do a lot more things, but this narrow little space, you already work so hard to get somebody in the door, they're not paying yet. How do you make sure you improve that? And then once they pay, how do you make sure they keep paying and stay for a long time? And that's a subject, coincidentally, is you read it in my last newsletter. I focused on this very much.
Very nice one. And if I trust you a little bit, that's for in case of the companies who have a software or a product which can be trialed. Yeah, but in case of a lead gen company, what would be your recommendation? Generating leads.
Absolutely. So on lead gen, we are very lucky that at the moment, some of the top platforms in the world have solved the three important problems we need to solve to improve our lead generation process. So lead gen, when we execute lead gen programs, we have three interesting problems. How do you find the right customer to deliver a message? So that's targeting. The second one is how do you deliver the right creative to that person? Because what will work for you will not work for me, even though both of us are the right customer for the company. That's called smart creative. And the third one is how much do you want to pay for it? Because you may turn out to be a very good customer because you're very rich. I'm not so rich. So the company should figure out how to pay more for you, less for me. So targeting, creative, bidding. These are three problems to solve. And at the moment, if you look at some of the world's most popular platforms like Google, like Meta, like TikTok, they have deployed AI to solve this problem in a really good way. And it's the smart targeting and smart bidding is already very, very advanced in these platforms. Creative is not quite there, but getting there. So as a B2B lead gen company, my first action would be to figure out how I can use those three features already in the platforms as the beginning of my journey. And then over time, you can bring that expertise in-house, you can execute at scale, or they can work with somebody brilliant like you to help the companies bring it in-house, scale it out with extra data, extra intelligence. But the starting point that is available in the platforms for these three important things for lead gen companies is already available.
Thank you for talking about this aspect, because it's important to really focus on the important things such as the targeting, creative, and of course the conversion at the last phase. We talked about us, the marketeers. What about our potential customers in case of the B2B buyers? What do you think and what do you feel and what do you hear? What are the most important changes in their behavior in terms of discovering content, in terms of trusting, evaluating, and later on deciding upon who to buy from?
Yes, so from a customer perspective, we are at an immense moment of disruption. A few months ago, I wrote almost a mini book on AEO, Answer Engine Optimization, and how AEO is also extremely important as we do our traditional SEO. Mm-hmm. And at the very core of why I spent like 6 newsletters, like a book's worth on AEO, is because influence and where it happens is changing. Mm-hmm. And here is a fundamental change happening, including with B2B. So let's say I'm a customer and I have a need. Whether I need plumbing supplies at scale, I need somebody to build my factory, I need somebody to help me hire people, I need software to scale my CRM, it doesn't matter. The traditional way it works, and it works like this most of the time, even today, because we're in a moment of transformation, is that I would go to Google, I would go to Bing, I would go to Syznam, and I will type in a bunch of queries. I will see the links and I will go do all the research, and then maybe I end up on your website. Mm-hmm. Maybe I see your ad and I click on the link and I end up and you have a lead gen completed, right? Mm-hmm. This is the old way.
Yes.
Today, I simply open ChatGPT, I open Claude, Mistral, Qwen, my recent favorite LLM from China. It's excellent. I just go and type in that I have this problem I want to solve as a customer. And the LLM, sometimes called AI, it actually goes and does all the research for me. It researches ratings and pricing and promotions and fit and innovation and features, employees, policies, competition. And it comes back and tells me, this is what you need. Mm-hmm. So the process in which a customer might be exposed to 5, 7, 8 companies because they're doing the research, does not collapse down to maybe 1 or 2. Everybody else is gone. So the influence used to happen by the company, the B2B company, getting a chance to talk to me. Now the influence is happening with the AI. It is happening at an intelligence layer. And they tell me, buy this. And it's a really big shift. And that's the thing we have to be worried about at the moment as marketers, as business people. Whether we're a B2B or B2C, it doesn't really matter. And by the way, the other day, I needed a different toothpaste. I asked ChatGPT, my teeth have this thing, which toothpaste I should use? He said, use this one. No research. Done. The influence shifted from me and the company to the AI. Of course, I needed a new, more sophisticated software for our factory. I simply asked Gemini. I said, this is my factory, this is the problem I'm solving, this is what we manufacture. It tells me, do this. And 80% of the influence that used to happen is gone. I just do the last 20%. And this is something that most people don't appreciate.
And that's what's also happening on Google, for example, in the AI mode. It gives you a recommendation on the Google itself, and then you probably use the rest of the SERP just to check out those recommendations to validate probably the recommendation. But that leads us to my next question or next point where I wanted to touch, which I wanted to touch, is the following. Pre-AI world, we were optimizing at the beginning, or at one point to make sure that our keywords are ranked very well, and based on the keywords and the search intent, our result is ranking high on the Google SERP. Now, in the AI world, how can we match the intent with our company in order to be featured in the AI-generated answer part? Especially in the case where basically every discussion with whatever LLM platforms we use, it's highly personalized. It's not, we were looking at, in Google Ads, for example, to optimize for short-tail keywords and long-tail keywords. Now we are huge tail, mainly keywords in this case, probably. How can we optimize that our brand is the one which appears in the LLM results and matching the very personalized intent of the user as you were searching for a toothpaste or a software for your factory? How can we do that?
Yes. So that one thing I definitely want to caution is that we are living in the middle of extraordinary change. Remember, every LLM model that is coming up is changing how it works, how it thinks, how it operates, and they are coming every 2 to 3 months, a new one. So at the moment, we have to be a little more patient, a little more comfortable with uncertainty. Because if anybody at the moment is saying, do exactly X and it will work, it's not a very wise person. But what we can do is we can look over the last 24 months. We can look at these models from ChatGPT 3 to 5. And we can look at the latest evolution at Gemini during the same time. And there are a few things that we are learning that are true so far. One of the things we have found is that LLMs tend to learn from a wider diversity of content than Google, traditional Google. Remember, Google has traditional search, also LLM search. It has both things at the moment. So I call it old Google and new Google sometimes. So old Google versus new Google, the influence is changing. So the new LLMs use a lot more video, audio, images, and text. With SEO, we focused a lot on text. We did a little bit images, not so much. How many B2B companies are running a podcast? How many B2B companies are thinking about audio narrations of their websites? How many B2B companies are thinking about making videos, demos, products, customer testimonials, conference visits, whatever? So first big thing to understand is the diversity of content is very important. Video, audio, text, and images, all four are a lot more influential. The second thing we have found is that if you look at the patterns, 1P, which is content we create and we host on our websites, our own channels, that's 1P. That used to be a lot more influential in terms of old SEO. And remember, SEO is still very important. That's where most of the money is coming from still today.
And so it's probably the base even on an LLM optimization.
Absolutely. So SEO remains important. I do not want to say, hey, stop SEO. SEO remains important, very good. It's just we're building on top of it. We're building on top of our traditional SEO. So second thing we have learned is 3P content. Content about us on other places, magazines, websites, users, reviewers, etc., etc. 3P content is also extremely important in addition to 1P content. LLMs value 3P content a lot more proportionally versus some of the old approaches. So you have to figure out how to have 1P and 3P content strategies. And then the third thing that's really important, which was also important for SEO, but not followed by B2B companies, is that you have to have consistency and freshness. We, on our B2B websites, we launch things that we come back to it in a few months or next year. That's
very
not
often
going to work. That's exactly right. So those three things are new in context of AEO that we have to begin to absorb. I want to clarify one really important point that people misunderstand. If I am a B2B company, I have to solve two problems. In the old search world, all I had to do is how can I get my link to show up? That is one problem. But there is a second problem we have to solve with LLMs, which is how can LLMs learn about us? Remember, these are learning engines. They scrape content and learn. So the first problem you have to solve is how can we put a lot of content, intelligence, everything into the world so the LLM learns about our company really well. The core engine learns well. Step two is if somebody searches for hers, how do we make sure it cites us? Exactly. That's when the citation link comes in. But remember, if you skip the learning part, the citation part is dead. If you do the learning part really well, it may cite a reviewer, it may cite somebody else about your company, but you still have a chance. You don't focus on the learning part, only focus on citations, only showing up. It's actually not going to work. So it's a new way to think about how we have an opportunity in this world where influence is changing so dramatically.
We were talking previous episode with Mark Schaefer about how AI changes our world, and he wrote a beautiful book about this. And we went down at one point to the road of pointing out what probably is not going to change even in the AI world, and that's focusing on empathy in terms of the human-to-human relationships. In your point of view, from marketing, digital marketing point of view, even in the AI world, what should be and what do you consider the basis which will not change even if everything changes everything? Well, even if AI gets more and more complex and present in our life. Just like, for example, Jeff Bezos, I believe he said that we should build our company on those things which are not going to change and not on the hype, on the novelty. So coming back to it, from digital marketing point of view, what do you think are the building blocks which will be here valid, and we can rely and build our marketing strategy and implementation in 2026, in 2030, and even further on?
Yeah. I'll give you two examples. So you know that I am very fond of intent-centric marketing. I built my framework, See, Think, Do, Care, which obsesses about understanding customer intent and being able to respond at its scale. If I'm not ready to buy right now, don't frickin' show me stupid coupons and ads about buy. That's not my intent, right? If I am a B2B practitioner, then at some point I am in a learning education state. At that time, you need to understand my intent and come to me with educational content. Don't sell me products. That's not what my intent is, for example. So I built See, Think, Do, Care, 12, 15 years ago. First time I invented this way of thinking. It's not about a funnel. It's about matching intent. Now, intent-centric marketing will remain true for the next 100 years, because at the very core of it is this idea of understanding our customers in every moment deeply enough that you can respond with the right message to them at the right time. So what does AI do? AI helps us understand the customer intent at scale, unimaginable scale. It allows us to respond with the right creative in a way you and I could never have done 2-3 years ago, much less when I invented See, Think, Do, Care. I couldn't imagine the scale at which we understand intent. So the framework, intent-centric framework, that remains true because at the very core of it is understanding and respecting the customer in a very deep way, and us as a company responding with the right piece of content. Sometimes the content is an ad, but it could be anything. So you see, that stays true. AI makes it better, smarter, more scale. That's one example. The second example, which I've been thinking about recently, is like, let's hand over all analytics to AI. This is something I believe we are in the right moment at the moment to start doing. So I'll give you a second example, what remains true. One of the big challenges every CFO has is if we are investing $10 million in our company for next year, I have a $10 million budget, and I have to invest it between customer service, product innovation, factory, marketing, sales, retail stores, whatever, right? It's a very common challenge that a CFO has. A CFO is going to have this challenge 50 years from now. How do I best allocate my budget? This today is a mix of data, mix of opinions, and guessing. That's how we allocate to ensure, let's say, highest lifetime value or highest market share growth. AI algorithms allow us to make this decision significantly smarter today, and 3 to 5 years from now, it will automatically do that job, not wait for the CFO to ask the question. So what remains true is this business challenge. How do I deploy capital in the most optimal way so my company grows? This challenge will remain true forever, but AI simply helps us do that capital allocation in a very, very smart and clever way, and do so with a frequency and intelligence that is extraordinary already, and will be completely automated going forward. So two completely different examples. intent-centric approaches for customers, and then capital allocation inside company. Two problems, they will be true forever, but AI helps us do them smarter, better at amazing scale.
I love that you brought up intent because, as you mentioned, the See, Think, Do, Care model, which I am very fond of it, and I'm implementing it. Indeed, it's intent-based. However, I've had challenge, and I have challenges, especially because customer behavior. It's not something written in stone. Sometimes it changes pre, post pandemic, and so on. Can you give us some ideas for those who are wanting to who want to implement the intent-based marketing, and I recommend all of them. Everyone should focus on this one because it's the first part from the targeting efficiency and fine-tuning that part. How can we? What are the signals, or what should we do in order to understand the intent behind a customer buyer persona, or how can we figure out what is the intent at scale?
Of course. So actually, let me give you an example of something I just implemented for one of the B2B companies here in the US. So they acquire the leads from their website. You can fill out the email form. They also have all the email addresses for all their current customers. And they have a very extensive email marketing program as a B2B company. Sometimes they send out white papers, sometimes they send out conference invitations, sometimes lessons, et cetera, et cetera. But one of the things I discovered is that they are emailing almost everybody the same thing all the time. Not uncommon. I'm sure Romanian B2B companies do the same. And so very quickly, this amazing tool called email marketing becomes spam. This is so stupid, right? But it's because we don't really understand when we have a mailing list of 100,000 people, 60,000 people, or 6,000 people, doesn't matter. It's very hard to understand what's the intent of all these people. So I can send them the right piece of content. But what we have done is two things. First thing I wanted to do is answer the question, is today the right time to email this customer? Should I send this customer email today? Is it going to annoy them? Is it going to upset them? Or is it helpful? So what we did is we took all the current email behavior for the last 3 years, all the clicks, all the customers, we merge it with the click-through behavior data that comes to the website. And for our existing customers, we match that with the telephone data. Because existing customers, they call customer service, et cetera, et cetera. So 3 important pieces. The emailing data by name, and for prospects, not customers, the website behavior data. In our current customers, telephone data. And we put this all into an intelligence algorithm. And based on analyzing patterns and unsubscribes and conversions and renewal of contract, etc., the LLM learned the behavior at an individual level for each person in the mailing list. What is the frequency of their open rate? What was their behavior? At what frequency do they unsubscribe, et cetera, et cetera? And the algorithm, so we run this algorithm every day for the entire mailing list, and it gives us a subset of email addresses and says, these are the people to email today. And remember, it triangulates these 3 very different sources of data. And it's fantastic. We cut down the number of emails we sent by 85%. That's how much we were annoying. But the 15%, we know they are ready to receive an email today because we have this intelligence that helps us understand. They open on Wednesday. I'm kidding. Whatever the logic is. Just step 1. Step 2 was even more fun, but harder. We analyze all the content in the email and the downloads and the products that people ultimately sign up. And this took us
the emails what the customer
months.
sent to us, like the conversation?
Yes. Exactly. Okay. So first, the content in the email itself. So we are emailing, and so we understand if people click on it, open the email, etc. What are they reading? What do they like? What do they not like? Then we tie it back to the retention, not unsubscribe for not customers, and tie it back to purchases or upgrades to the current contract. 2 different things. And so after 11 months, I want to say not easy, we put stage 2 into place, which was, what is the if we can email you today, what is the piece of content we should send you? Both of these things are solved with AI. So we know we will email Andre on next Tuesday, and we will send this particular white paper to Andre because where he is in the current stage, that is the most useful thing we can send him. So I just want to give you this example. It's not about running ads or video. I have so many other examples. It's a really important problem for a B2B company is to maintain that relationship. For a B2B company, it takes a lot of nurturing of the relationship to convert to a customer and to retain the customer so they constantly renew, right? And so by solving this problem with AI, when should we email somebody? And then second phase harder, what piece of content should we send them? Is it a video? Is it a white paper? Is it a text? Is it an invitation to come visit our factory? Whatever. This allowed us to be very intent-centric, respond to the customer intent, reduce the inefficiency in our marketing, and also we give joy to the customer, profit to the company over a long period of time. So just one example I wanted to share you, something I worked with a B2B client recently, solving this problem with email.
Okay. Avinash, I know that you're a big fan of smart dashboards, and a dashboard not one size fits all, but you should have the perfect dashboard for the perfect user or destinator, or who is for whom is the dashboard. And some KPIs in the dashboard should be, instant things or real-time things. Some should be, weekly, monthly, yearly, or even different levels. In terms of an AI dashboard, how are we performing in the LLM world? What are the most important KPIs you would make sure that it's part in every dashboard for a small to medium-sized business owner?
I see. Yeah. So this is all related to I think your question is related to AEO.
Yeah.
And how do we make sure that we know where we are in these answer engines, as I call them,
exactly.
or LLMs, as I mentioned it. So actually, I will simplify down to just two KPIs to watch for. Because in a business dashboard, as you and I know, we will have a lot more KPIs than just the AEO. But if you are a CMO, you are a senior director of marketing, there are two metrics that are most important. And by the way, there are many different AEO tools available now. I have recommended two of them. One is called Evertune. A second one is called Gumshoe. So two solutions. So please explore them, or you can explore any of them. None of these people are paying me money. I wish they did, but they are not. So I want to be clear. In most AEO analytics tools, these two metrics are available. The first one is called visibility score. Visibility score. So if you and I are searching for a B2B company in Central Europe for our company, and I go into Gemini or ChatGPT somewhere, and I type in my long request with all my requirements, does your company come back as an answer to that query related to that B2B area? That is visibility score. How often do you show up? So it's very important. We want to show up, as you correctly emphasized early in our discussion. And most AEO analytics tools measure visibility score. I wrote a blog post on AEO analytics. You can link to it. It's on my blog.
No.
So the definition is in that blog post. Second very important KPI is average position. Average position. So so I'll give you an actual example. So for one of our companies I work with, the visibility score is about 76%. That means for their area, they show up 76% of the time. That is amazing, wonderful.
That's like the top of page on Google Ads, what we had and we still have.
Yeah. Exactly. The second, but I measure the second KPI, average position. Their average position is 5. So there are 4 more competitors on top of them. So showing up is not enough. You want to show up, but you want to show up 1, 2, 3. 1, why not? So these 2 very simple KPIs help you diagnose how good is our company with AEO today. Do we show up? Visibility score? And what is our average position? And it will help you prioritize your actions. Because if you have very low visibility score, don't worry about average position. First, you have to show up. So you prioritize those actions. If your visibility score is high, as the example I gave, then you want to focus on figuring out, how do I get my average position up? So I am in the top 3, I am in the top 2. And the activity you have to do as a company for visibility score is different than average position. But these 2 simple KPIs, easily available in most AEO analytics tools, allow you to focus in a very helpful way so you don't waste your precious time and money. Because right now the AEO field is changing so much, the LLMs are changing so much, that there is a lot of nonsense about what you should do. These 2 metrics help you focus, understand reality, and then evolve. And remember, things will change because the space is changing so much. But I hope that is helpful.
Yes, definitely it's helpful, and we are looking at these metrics. There are also in Romania a couple interesting tools. I think one of them is developed by BVF, and it's very interesting to see the geo or AIO visibility, and also the frequency, how and position, and so on. I want to challenge you. In the world where the LLM will suggest, best case scenario, 3 options where you can choose for your own inquiry or need. Do we still need to test our creatives in terms of ads? Probably yes. And if so, I know that you have developed and you're working with a very nice solution to test creatives before we are burning money on any paid media channel.
Yes. So yes, thank you. I also work as the Chief Strategy Officer for Human Made Machine, and we obsess about creative and pre-testing creative as a part of a company's win before you spend strategy.
Exactly.
Why is this important? 60 to 70% of all success of your marketing is driven by the creative. Not the bidding, not the targeting, not the channel, not any of those things.
And some argue that, sorry to interrupt, and some argue that even your budget should be allocated this way in terms of when you invest in a campaign.
Exactly, and we can come back to that because it's very important to think about how you're allocating budget. So because so much success is dependent on the creative, I obsess about pre-testing the creative. I don't want to find out after I have spent money, the creative sucked. That is waste of money. So win before you spend with creative. So to your specific question, there are 2 parts to follow. The first one is, so first part would be brand, second performance. For performance, increasingly, we can build creative dynamically and customize it to every person very uniquely because the outcomes data is so easily available. Did they convert? Did they not convert? Simple, right? It's really easy. Did they download my white paper? Did they not download? So for performance marketing, increasing the creative execution is getting automated. For brand marketing, we are quite a far way away from it, quite some times away. So for brand, what we want to know is, what is the story we want to tell? What are the values our company wants to stand for? What makes us different from every competitor we have in the marketplace? For example, I'll give you 2 examples. I believe both these companies are available in Romania, but you can buy a jacket from Patagonia, which is my favorite. I love Patagonia. And you can buy a jacket from North Face. Even when I say those 2 company names, very different values come to your head. They are very different values. I love Patagonia because of its extraordinary commitment to the environment. That is their story, right? North Face, different story. I'm not saying good or bad, different story. So brand marketing creative is very important to think about the story. the values, what do we want to communicate? So my recommendation is stories become creative concepts. And those concepts, how do we tell the story? What do we stand for? What are the values we want to bring to market? I highly recommend aggressively creative pre-testing that, because you get the concept wrong, you're dead. It doesn't matter how much AI is using. You will suck at scale. That's what I hear. You suck at scale if you're
I love
creative.
it.
Concept is wrong. Concept is very important. Then for brand marketing, also pre-test the creative execution, because AI is not good at it. We're going to spend a lot of money on brand marketing. And as you very well know from conversations you and I have had, brand marketing has a lagging impact. By the time you realize you failed, you have already lost millions of dollars. Pre-test. You don't want to lose millions of dollars and learn. You want to learn you failed before you start. So for brand marketing, test creative concepts and creative executions. For performance marketing, test the concept, let the AI do the creative execution. Or use AI to do pre-testing of creative. That is a really good way to make sure you spend the right amount of money and you take advantage of all the opportunities to win before you spend.
Right. I noted down, and I love this, what you said, that stories became creative concepts, right? And we should center our marketing, and also about brand, that we should pre-test our creative execution and where we can use AI, because it's available on a larger scale, and we can tap into AI a lot of information from us. Now, I would like to, from this technical point of view, and I love that you also touched on the brand, because I believe brands are important to invest in the brand image and the brand construction, especially in the era of LLMs and the search engine optimization, and also, in our case, the second level, which is the Answer Engine Optimization. I would like to slip a little bit towards a different dimension. And I know that you have talked quite so many times about this, we are talking about AI, we are talking about LLMs, we are talking about Answer Engine Optimization, but what about organizational readiness and culture in the era of AI? What do you think? What you hear from your customers? What are the biggest challenges companies face in this direction or addition towards their usual standard operation procedures?
Oh God!
What are their biggest challenges?
I know. We could do 4-hour podcast on this topic. It's so important. Because at the end of the day, technology being incredible doesn't mean that it will help your company. It comes down to people and culture. That is the thing to focus on. So as I work with my clients, as I work with, I do keynotes and things, I always say, culture eats strategy for breakfast, as Peter Drucker said, Yes. It's really important to focus on the culture. So a couple of things that I'm observing this early. Remember, we're early in this evolution, but a couple of things I'm observing is the incentives that currently drive your company have to change. If you don't change the incentives, so if your marketing organization is still focused on activity and not outcome, no amount of AI is going to help. All your marketing team will do, even if it use AI, is do more activity. Whatever bad things they are doing today, they will do at larger scale, lose money faster. So you have to figure out how to change the incentive to outcomes. And that forces the organization to think about what is it that we can use AI for that will drive outcomes, not activity. And yet when I talk to most marketing organizations, they are focused on activity, not outcomes. We promote people for doing shiny objects, not things at scale. That's how you get promoted inside a company, right? Including the very big company I worked at a few years ago. People get promoted for shiny objects. They don't get promoted for doing the things that actually drive scale. Another good example we have put in place, inspired by Shopify, by the way. One of the things Shopify's CEO put in place is they said, before we hire any new employee, we want you to prove to us that you have used AI to solve the problem. And if you cannot solve problem with AI, we will approve the job hiring. Now that creates a new incentive for the organization to take advantage of what is possible. AI can't solve everything. It cannot. But what I'm finding in cultures is even if you try to solve a problem first with AI, you will realize instead of getting 100% of the thing done, you can do 20%, 40%. Then you will hire the person for the other 60%. Yeah? You will hire somebody different. So you see what changed? By the Shopify team CEO saying, this is the approach we will now use at Shopify, it changed the incentives for people behavior inside the company. So it's really, really important to focus on incentives. The second thing that is very important, and many, many people will tell you, is when you are this early in a revolution, make sure you reward failure as much as success. Most companies only reward success. Look, I used one of the latest toy that came out the other day. You know, Moltbot. This thing came out just last week. It's very hot right now for 5 days, and it's super cool. Does amazing things. It came from Europe, by the way, and I use it on one of my machines to automate some things. It wiped out everything.
Wow.
No, I did it on one of my safe machines. Lose everything. It's no big deal. Now, I give you my personal example.
Mm-hmm.
In companies, when things are changing so much, you want to let companies, people, teams try a lot of things. And even if it doesn't work, you reward and celebrate failure. Because what you recognize is the effort and change that people are embracing. And if you don't have that culture, companies will remain in the past. The third most important thing, I think, is CEOs, CMOs, CTOs sending long emails every day, harassing people to embrace AI is not going to work. It is already proven failure. Microsoft has said this, BCG has said this, McKinsey has said this. The very top 2 layers of the company have to embrace AI first. The CEO has to demonstrate first how they are using AI to do their job better. The CTO has to show how he or she is using Claude Code to save 70% time of software writing. The chief logistics officer has to show how they're using AI to do forecasting better. When the top layer of the company simply talks but does not walk, those companies don't embrace AI. Change starts at the top. And if your top is just talking, don't expect your company to survive for a very long time in this era. So those 3 things, I would say, they're all tied to changing incentives to change the culture. That's the magic, not the fact that you can use ChatGPT for free. You have to focus on those 2 things, and you will get extraordinary results.
I will definitely look at this podcast in the recording because you told me so many new things and so many important and useful things, and I made some notes here, which I will use it. But definitely, I will check out this podcast again. We are closing towards the end of this podcast, Forum IT. I want to challenge you for trying to do what is probably impossible. To look like in a crystal ball and theoretical, of course, and to imagine what do you think is still possible that in 3 years the B2B lead generation universe will probably look like, and what are the most important skills marketers should have in order to be successful in that era?
I see. Yeah. So I'll simplify it down in the interest of time to a couple of simple things. The first one is today we do a lot of marketing activity. We may do ads, we may do targeting, we may allocate budget, we may call our agency, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But if I look at 2028, 2029, right? So you mentioned 2 to 3 year horizon. If we look at the end of 2028, a marketer will have a swarm of agents that will be doing the work, not the marketer themselves. Their job will be to be a marketing strategist. Mm-hmm. What problems are we solving? How do we tell our stories? What are the competitive advantages we want to bring forward? And their job will be orchestrating a swarm of agents that actually do the work of marketing automatically and intelligently. The marketer doesn't have to do. So today we do and think. Because there is so much to do, we don't have time to think. In 2028, we will have all the time to think. We have to do very little. Because I will have 1,200 agents, 1,200 agents run by AI automatically who will do all of the work. They won't know what to do for some time. That is my job. So more think, less do. That is the big shift for human beings, for marketers in 2028. Lead gen or otherwise, doesn't really matter. The second thing that is very true is, look, one of the changes that is ahead of us is that with every revolution, things are going to change at a very rapid clip. So any human being that embraces the ability to constantly learn, constantly change, constantly experiment, they will do very well. But we are not wired as humans to do that. We like stability. We don't like uncertainty. We are scared and worried. I am scared and worried. Yeah. About 6-7 years ago at Google, when I first started to use the LLMs, early LLMs, I realized, oh my God, my job will be useless. And so the last 6 years, I've been working to figure out how to get out of that job, get a different job and a different job. And I was changing at every fast clip. So I'm applying it to myself. So that's the second thing to think about as we head towards 2028.
Wow. Thank you very much, Avinash, for all these. And I think you mentioned wisely that we can spend another 4 hours on different topics and going into the rabbit holes. We should do that on a different time. We are very close towards the end of this podcast. We only have the secret question, which was left for you from our previous guest. Is there anything what you want to add and we should have been discussed during our podcast today in terms of B2B lead gen and AI, and you want to point it out, or we can slip it towards the secret question?
No. I'm happy to answer the secret question. Yeah.
All right. Good. Now, it's very interesting that every guest lists the question, not knowing who he or she will be and from which expertise or which background. And this one is the following. Which is your biggest fear regarding 2026, personal or professional level? And how are you preparing yourself if that fear will come true?
There is a lot of discussion these days about when we will hit AGI, artificial general intelligence, and not AI. And then on horizon is super intelligence, which in my definition is the combination of quantum computing and AI. That I think is just going to change the universe. It is so big. So at the moment, if you look at Mr. Musk, Mr. Musk is saying that AGI will arrive this year. Yes. If you listen to, and if you listen to the founders of DeepMind, Mr. Hassabis has said it may arrive in 3 years. So I'm more comfortable with a 3-year horizon. But if it arrives this year, my fear is that it will lead to more large-scale disruption in the job market. It will lead to a lot more disruption and speed up some things we want to come to slowly. And so if Mr. Musk is true, then I'm worried that we are not ready to embrace that change and the implications of change, especially in the political environment in every country, in Romania, in the United States. So that's my worry. So I'm hoping AGI will come slower. It will come in 3. I will take 5. I will be happy with 5. I want less. I don't want more. Because what we already have is enough, right? Now, how am I preparing myself? It's doing what I told you a few minutes ago. I do a lot of experimenting. I'm spending at least 10 to 12 hours every single week learning everything new about how to use AI to do all kinds of things. Just yesterday, I was using Kimi. Kimi is the latest LLM from China, And Gimme Code is a really sophisticated way to write software. And so I'm like, okay, I got to learn something new. I got to learn something new, learn something new. So the way I'm preparing myself is invest in learning and embracing change rather than resisting it. Because resistance, as they said in a very famous movie, is futile.
Exactly. Avinash, thank you very much. It was a pleasure to talk with you. And of course, you will send me via the internet your secret question for the next customer. Thank you. And you are always welcome back to the iTalk studio, either remote, like here, or when you are in Romania physically, and to discuss interesting topics regarding AI, marketing, B2B, lead gen, and why not also organizations. Thank you very much for everyone for listening in and to sharing our content. I believe we are here to offer you interesting topics with interesting guests, an important guest like Avinash Kaushik. I recommend you to keep an eye on him. He is visiting pretty often Romania, but if not, then there are, on the internet you can find a lot of things about him. And of course, we will reference some of his mentions in terms of concepts what he already included in the podcast. Thank you very much, and hope you enjoyed this podcast, and see you next time when you will log in, or either on YouTube or Spotify. I hope you will listen to interesting topics with interesting guests. I'm Csaba Demeter. Thank you for your attention. Until next time, take care of you, and make sure that you are not wasting the time to invest in your stories, because those stories will become your creative concept and best.